Morning students and Jai Hind. Today we are studying or in the course of our study we are advancing or we have focused upon the Karl Marx and the class struggle, and we have already studied now how the Karl Marx has now divided or depicted the different phases and the era of the societies, and in the different historical era and the different epoch of the history. Understand? Now the different kind of the production system and the production process goes, or in each era he tried to tell that in each era there had been a struggle between the haves and haves not. Understand? In the beginning and in the past, the people and the losers and the haves not have the rights and have the property. But as the system evolves, economic process evolved by the passage of the time. So they won't pay. So these haves not have been created. They have been deprived, and the certain section of the people haves and the productive forces they have grabbed the entire profits or the entire surplus values of the production. They now grabbed and left the large number of the people now without having their basic rights of the economic rights. Understand? So now students, here we have already seen that how the Karl Marx his society evolved from the primitive society to the modern through a distinct phase, through the different phases. Understand? Now from the primitive to the modern society, in the different phases society evolved, and each phases had its own characteristics. It had its own features. Understand? And moreover, and by a particular kind of the conflict and a particular kind of the conflict went on and had in the every epochs or the every era, a particular kind of the conflict went on between the oppressor and oppressed classes. Marx or Engels wrote that the free man and the slaves, patricians and the plebeians, lord and the serfs. Understand? A conflict now Marx and Engels have now told, and they have written a conflict was between the haves and haves not, in form of oppression or oppressed, or in the form of patrician or plebeians, or in the form of a guild master and the journeyman, or the oppressor or oppressed, stood in constant opposition to each other, and these two classes have been constantly standing to each others. They are standing to each classes. Understand? Each others in opponent to the two classes are standing opponent to each others, and further constant oppositions to one another carried out the uninterrupted, now the hidden, now open fight. Hidden, now the Karl Marx said, and he said that. Understand? Now a constant fight is a constant struggle and contrast existing in the society between the two classes. Okay, between the haves and haves not, in different era, in the different form, but a struggle is going on in the two classes. For the struggle is always going, or this struggle may be either the hidden struggle or the open struggle. What struggle exists, whether in a dormant conditions or whether in eruptive conditions. These struggles now always exist in the society, and the major opposing classes of each state were identified from the contradiction of production processes, or the major conflicts that began because of the identified from a contradiction. This contradiction was identified through the production processes. In the production processes, haves and haves not, who just gained, who did not gain, who were the now ousted from the surplus values and from the gain. So this is where the now this appeared and became the much more identical on the economic front. On the economic front, these were became the more identical or the productive. In the capitalism, we can say the two classes, the bourgeois class means that is the this word is used for the capitalist class, and the proletariat class or the proletariat class, this word is used for the working class or the labor class, or the capitalist owned all the means of production. In the modern capitalism, capitalist owned all the means of production, the land, labor, capital, entrepreneurs, all the factors they now controlled. Only the laborers, he has no any share in the production system, or he is alienated, and particularly he now is the wage, lived on the wage and live on the wage. And the factory owners, capital, existing factories, machineries, land, and so on. On the other hand, the working class lost it. Those who are the working in the factories lost it. All the means of production. He lost gradually all the means of production. Now that it owned for the access in the past. He owned these means of production in the past, but gradually he lost in the modern factory system all the positions, and moreover these working class lost all. And thus in the capitalist social system, what happens? Workers had no choice. Workers had no choice except to sell their labor for wages in order to survive their life. In order to survive, they have no other way except to sell their labor, their work for the wages, and because they had nothing else. Understand? That is this is the nothing to lose, but they have to be the win the world. Understand? They have nothing to lose, but they have to be the win this world. That is the slogan of the labor class and the working class. Understand? पाने के लिए होने के लिए कुछ नहीं है, पाने के लिए सारा जाना है. Understand? Now this is nothing to lose, but having the world, be to the world. This is the now slogan of the workers of the world. Now even now you can see that how the Kranti and the revolutions occurred. How the revolutions occurred. Now students, even when two classes are objectively opposed to each other, now the haves and haves not, capitalist and the workers, they are standing opposite to each others, and now they don't automatically engage in the conflict. This conflict does not happens automatically. And how this happened? For this conflict to occur, it is necessary for them to now become subjectively conscious of their class. So they have to be the concepts subjectively. They have to be the know about their class, about their status, they have to be the conscious of the class interest or the identity. What is their class interest, and what is their identity? This must have to be the recognized, must have to be the known to them, and then they must have to be the conscious about that. Then after, and these realizations will bring them into conflict or bring them into the revolution, the workers into the revolution, and therefore Also their rivals interest and the identity, they must have to be the recognized their rival interest or their identities. Understand, this must be the known to the workers, they must identify themselves. Understand, and it is only after this the kind of class consciousness, a kind of class awareness is developed through the political mobilization. This class consciousness must be developed through the political consciousness mobilization, and that class conflict occurs when they make their political organizations, the workers, understand, and mobilize their political organization against the capitalist. So then this revolution occurs, and this is the needed for the bringing about the revolution against the capitalism. Understand, and moreover such conflicts can lead to the overthrow, and this kind of the conflicts ultimately lead to overthrow a dominant or the ruling class. A dominant ruling class must be the overthrow, and a ruling class and the coalition by the previously dominated or subordinated class, and previously dominated and subordinated class would overthrow the capitalist class. The dominant capitalist class would be overthrown by the dominated and subordinated class and the working class, and this will now no doubt bring the revolution. And now this is the dominated, this is the called a revolution. This is called a revolution, a Marx revolution. Almost now told that if this is called as the revolution. Moreover, and what happened in the Marx theory, Karl Marx theory, economic processes created conditions. Marx said that what created the condition of the revolution and the any changes? Economic, now he said that economic process that they carried the contradiction, which in turn generated class conflict. These economic processes created contradiction, which in turn generate this economic contradiction generate the class conflict. And this is but the economic process did not automatically lead to the revolution, but this economic process is automatically, understand, did not motivate or did not bring about the revolution. They automatically, no, this happened not automatically. How this happened? Social or political processes. By the social process or the political processes were also needed to bring about the total transformation in the society. This total transformation of the society can be the and could be brought and can be bring by the social or political transformation that will also transform the economic system or economic processes. Understand this so that the social processes and as well as economic processes or economic institutions are required for the bringing about the changes. Understand, political formation and political mobilization is required to bring about the economic social changes, and social changes and the political changes together is necessary for bringing about the economic processes. Understand, changes bringing about the changes in the economic processes. Understand, so this is that will by through this the conflict of the revolutions will come about. Understand, and moreover the presence of a ideology is one reason. Okay, the presence of ideology is the one reason why the relationship between the economic and socio-political processes become the complicated. Now the relation between the economic and the socio-political processes became the very complicated. Why complicated? In every epoch means in every age, in every stage the ruling classes promoted a dominant ideology. Why this became the very complicated? Why the revolution didn't happen? There was a reason behind this. This dominant class, whosoever in any age, whether in the age of the primitive age or in the age of the feudal age or in modern age, what now this dominant class promoted a new kind of the ideology. They gave the society to a new ideology. What the ideology? This dominant ideology, or the way of seeing the world. They saw this world and tried to show this world to these poor and the working class world, tend to justify the dominance of the ruling, and they tried by giving an ideology, and they tried or they tend to justify their dominance and their exploitation or their existing social order. What they gave the, for example, dominant ideology may encourage. They encouraged this dominant ideology, encouraged poor people to believe in that they are the poor. They now tried to impose their false ideology upon the poor. What they gave the ideology? They are the poor because they are exploited by the rich, but because of it they are not poor, that they are being because they are being exploited by the rich. No, this is their fate, this is their lot and fortune. That's why they are the poor. We are not exploiting, we are not amassing the wealth and leaving you in the starvation. Understand? We are not amassing. We are. This is your lot and the fate you are suffering. People. Understand? So now here the dominant class tried to impose the poor, not because they are exploited by the rich, but because this is their fate. This is the fate. Because of the bad deeds in the previous life, they have done the bad deed in their previous life. Understand? That's why they are the suffering in this life. They are not being exploited by the dominant class at all. Dominant class, they have did a very pious work, holy work and deeds in their previous life. And the sufferers and the poor, they are the suffering because of their fate or because of their fortune, fate, and because of their karma which they had done in the previous life. This philosophy was given. Understand? By this. And moreover, ideology, and however the dominant ideologies are not always successful. So this dominant ideology was not always successful, and they can also be the challenge by the alternative world views of the rival ideology, and this dominant view was challenged. Understand? By the other rivals ideologies given against this ideology of the capitalist. Understand? And moreover, as the consciousness is spread among the poor, among the working class, as this consciousness is spread unevenly among the classes, unevenly, some influenced and some became the conscious, some remain still unconscious of these among the classes. How a class will act in the particular historical situation can't be the predetermined. Understand? How this if the some class influence and having the conscious, some unconscious, so how can this change it? And this class act of the particular historical situation can't be predetermined. So this can't be the predetermined. If the all would have been the conscious along with and at one point of the time, then the revolutions could be the happened. Otherwise, some did not happen the conscious of this, and the some other we are the conscious of that. Understand? Under these conditions, this could not be the happen. The revolutions. So hence, according to the Marx, economic processes generally tend to generate the class struggle. So Marx said that if only this is the economic process which tend to generate the mass struggle and the class struggle, and moreover our class conflict, though this also depends on the political and social condition. Our Marx also said that this depends upon the social conditions or the political conditions, and moreover, and given favorable condition, and if the given the favorable conditions, the class conflicts culminate in revolution. If the favorable conditions comes and it is the prepared background is prepared, so then the class, then after that this culminate in the revolution, a complete and overhauling change in the social system or the political or economic system. Understand? So now students, I suppose that you all would have understand the system, the Karl Marx, the class struggle. Understand how this struggle was, how this struggle could be. I suppose that you students would have studied well, or the you would have understand this very well. Further, students, a very brief account of the Emile Durkheim's. Now in the we can see. Let's come to the another thinkers, Emile Durkheim. Now the class, here the early life of the Emile Durkheim. The early life in the box has been given. You can go through yours. Understand, that is the very easy for that. Or now to understand the Emile Durkheim, even I suppose that you would have understand the Karl Marx and his thoughts. Or now further, here the one of these Emile Durkheim may be considered as the founder of the sociology. Now he may be considered the founder of the sociology. Why? Because as a formal discipline, as a defined discipline, formal discipline, now was the first to become a professor of the sociology. In a formal discipline, Emile Durkheim became the first professor in the sociology in Paris in 1913. Understand? Or he also born in the Lorraine, Alsace and Lorraine. Lorraine, now you know, one of the province. First, this province was under the control of the France. Understand? But in 1871, in the Battle of Sedan, or in process of the unification of Germany, the Alsace and Lorraine, these two provinces had been taken over by the Germany. Since these provinces were dominated or dwelled by the German-speaking people, but it was under the control of the French government. Understand? So under the Bismarck, who was the pioneer of the who was the just a hero or the leader of the bringing about the unification of Germany. He worked for that, Bismarck. Understand? So he captured. He got now Alsace and Lorraine. In the battle, a battle was fought. Understand? Or in that battle, the French king Napoleon III was defeated, and he was made the captive. Or this province in 1871. Understand? This province was taken over by the Germany, because these provinces were under the control of the France, but the people residing on inhabitants of these two states, two provinces were the German speaking. So without the taking under the control of these two provinces, the unification of Germany could not be completed. That's why this paved the way for a battle between the two countries, in which the Napoleon III lost the battle, and he was made the captive. Understand? And he was made this, and this was a great insult and slur on the a political slur on the international for the France, a humiliation for the France, or the Germany now army march into the Paris also. Or then after the coronation of the William First was done there, or Germans this was the in Germany unification was now celebrated in the glass palace of the France. This was the much humiliating and for the French people, and the France after that, understand, the World War, the seed of the World War First was sown here, because the France never forget the humiliation, this humiliation, and the Alsace and Lorraine, understand. Then after the France wanted again the regain its prestige, or restore its prestige in international community. As a result, what happened? The France later on joined the hands is the traditional enemy of the, England. They came together, and then after in the World War First, as the happened, understand, we know very well. I don't have to be the discuss about the World War First, because the students know the World War First. I don't want to go in the details. Understand? So here the Germany, we know very well, the Germany was defeated in the World War First, and then after this under this World War First, after that the Paris Peace Conference, again the France was got the Alsace and Lorraine. In the Paris Peace Conference, Germany got the defeat, and they had to ceded to the Alsace and Lorraine to the France. Understand? So now students, this was the where he in the Lorraine province, the Imai Durkheim the born there. Understand? And moreover, the born into an Orthodox Jewish family. He belonged to a Jewish family. We know very well Jews, who were the Jews. Understand how they suffered in the World War II. You know very well, in the hands of in the Nazi government, or in the Nazi government, and they born into the Orthodox Jewish family. Durkheim was sent to the rabbinical school for the religious study. Jewish religious school he was sent for the getting the early education. In a very religious schools there he got, or by the time he entered in the, he called it normal superior years in the 1876, and he took a now broke with his religious orientation. Then after, although he got the religious study in the early life, but he broke his religious orientation. Understand? He was not impressed by the much by the religion, and declared himself as the agnostic. Understand? He himself declared as the agnostic. Understand? And break the his religious concern and the religious orientations. Understand? And further, or his moral upbringing, but he had a deep impact of the morality upon his minds. Understand? So this moral impact, however, his moral upbringing, he was morally had an enduring influence on, and that it's had a very deep impact on him, or his sociological thinking. The moral codes were the key characters of the moral codes, the morality, the ethics, and the moral were the main characteristics of a society that determine the behavior pattern of the individual. Now on this moral facts, understand, and the social fact that is on this moral views through that characteristics, now he said that moral codes were the key. Now he was influenced by the morality, so he said that moral codes were the key characteristics. These are the main features of a society that determined the behavior patterns of the individual. That okay, behavioral patterns of the individual. What the individual's behavior, that is the set forth. That is the set forth by the moral codes. Every individual behavior is set forth by the moral codes. He or she is the driven and governed by the moral codes, what they want bears in his mind as an individual. Coming from the religious family, Durkheim cherished the idea of developing a secular understanding of the religion. Since although he was just a upbringing happened in a very religious environment, but even then he cherished the idea of developing a secular, not to be the aligned or inclined toward much towards the religion. Now he developed a secular understanding of the religion. Understanding of the religion, the how understanding of religion can be the secular. Now this was the very complicated thoughts given by the M.L. Durkheim. Very complicated thoughts we have to be the understand. And it was his last book. He wrote the elementary forms of religious life. Understand? And that he was the finally able to fulfill this his what was this wish he wanted. Understand, to draw and bring the secularism in the religious attitudes. Understand? So now he tried the elementary forms of religious. He was the finally he wanted to fulfill his wishes through this writing and through these ideas. First of all, society was a Durkheim's social fact. First, Durkheim now said that his society was for Durkheim. What is society? Society was a social fact. What is the which existed as a moral community? What is the society? Society was a social fact which existed as a moral community over and above the individual. There is a society is a moral community. Understand? And this is the above, over and above the individual. Means the individual is a particular part of the society, a unit of the society. Understand? Society is a moral, okay, a moral community, and what is the how the moral comes? What the morals are? The moral code. What the code? Code of behaviors, code of norms, behavior, and social norms, social tradition, social behaviors. These are the moral codes. And this society is what? The collectively society is the collective body of these moral codes. An individual is the part of that body who has to obey or abide these moral codes. A person's moral codes and the behavior is determined by the societies and the social moral codes or the social facts. According to that, behavior is made by and done by an individual. Understand? Now, students, today, next I shall continue on the email Durkheim. Okay, even after that, further we have to be the focus on the different aspects of it. Gradually we shall start. A brief introduction was here. Later on